Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hero Movie Podcast, your greatest source for superhero movie discussion in the multiverse. My name is Adam Portrais, and I'm joined by Bruce Leslie.
I'm a prickly pear, and the first time I watched this movie was at an inappropriately young age.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back for yet another week. Unfortunately, Sean was going to be here. He had plans. I heard he even started writing a Stallone connection, but work has drawn him away yet again. So it is back to just Bruce and I, but do not worry. Do not worry. We have a trip back to the past for you guys. One that was actually brought to us by our friends that go down to patreon.com/HMP and support us. This is your episode. Technically for the month of September. We had to switch some stuff around because Adam forgot something was at a wrong date. Yeah. Which is not unusual, but today we're going to be covering Weird Science, written and directed by John Hughes. We'll get into all that, and but yeah, man, this is a Patreon episode. What happens for those of you that don't know? No matter what the level that you support us on Patreon, every single month you're going to be able to vote on a movie that we watch. So we usually hand you 4 or 5 movies, and we give you a choice. We say, which one of these do you want to watch? You guys vote, and whoever gets the most, gets the most votes wins. That's kind of how voting should work. In
85% of the time.
85% of the time, unless it's like,
and thank goodness with Patreon, we do not have an electoral college.
We don't have an electoral college, but sometimes I'd like to wish we would, because there's some things where you're just like, well, we do what we can do. Fine, we'll do it. But this time we do have, you guys voted pretty. It was a pretty close race. But this one won out, man. Weird Science. So we're going to be talking about that today. But let's talk a little bit about Patreon, Bruce.
Yeah, I want to hear about this.
Because this is top of the month. Top of the month is when we go and we give these biggest of round of applause to all the people that go down to patreon.com/HMP and help us out here. There's executive producers we love all of you. You know that.
Of course, man. It's in our DNA.
We can't help it. But we do want to talk about just the highest of high people here. These are the people that do at the executive producer level. Matthew Schnapp, Jim Beverly, Alex, we got Robert, we got RocketFace. He's back actually. Carlton Gordon, he's back on the train here, rocking that out. And new over in the UK, we message back and forth on Facebook all the time. Simon has joined up at the top here, man. So that's pretty awesome. We really appreciate that, and everybody that comes in at the $5 level. So if you're up at that one and stuff, you're going to get all kinds of good stuff, and we'll talk about those probably a little bit later. And anyone who's in the $5 or above category, you guys will always get some bonus content here and there and things of that nature, and there's all kinds of good stuff. Now, I do want to talk about this real quick, because we did put out a survey recently.
Yeah.
And we asked a whole lot of people, just a bunch of questions, just kind of about themselves and everything. We had some pretty good responses. I think we had around 40 or 50 responses there, which is pretty cool, because most people don't want to take the time to do that. But if you still want to, you still can. It's still open, facebook.com/HeroMoviePodcast. Just scroll down. It's there. And there's all kinds of stuff, and we wanted to see, just what people liked about us, what people thought we might be able to improve on, because, we're always trying to get better for you guys, But I mentioned in their Patreon just to see like who supported, who didn't, and if they didn't, why not. And one of the big things I completely understand is people just go, I really don't have the money to do it. If you don't have the money, don't worry. And there were some people in some comments and stuff that did say a little something. I just want to make sure that things are clarified. Because some people said, if I knew you were going to start charging for a podcast, I would have never started listening. And it's like, well, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
We always want to make it sure.
We don't charge for the podcast, man. We're asking people to support our production costs.
Exactly. This is free. You will always get this show for free, so don't worry. So if you can't do it, and there's some people that honestly, I almost, I respect. They're blunt, and I respect that. They're just like, I don't pay for content. I'm like, fair enough,
Yeah.
But to me, and even if it's the dollar, we have people that are down at the $5 and even dollar level there. So don't think that if we want everybody to be at the $20 level like the list of folks I just read off. We don't expect that. That's a very rare being over there, okay? So, we're not asking for all that kind of stuff, but if you can drop $1 a month, that makes always the big difference. And of course, you get to vote, and you could have voted on today's movie. Perhaps you didn't want us to cover Weird Science. Perhaps you want us to cover something else. And the only way that you can do that is patreon.com/HMP, so you get a little bit extra. And I've got a little something else extra for you. I'm going to send this to you, Bruce, because I forgot to send it to you before the show.
Okay.
But I did a little. Well, I don't have it here, so I can't show you. it's in the other room. Maybe I'll do it once I start playing the trailer. But I drew a little. I drew a doodle. Drew a doodle up of Doctor Strange and everything, and just as a little thank you, it's a little original drawing from me. It's pretty high resolution, so you can do whatever you want to with it and stuff. And I'm gonna be sending that out. Should be in your hands right now. Patreon.com/HMP. Even if you're $1 on up, you'll get that. And I'm gonna draw a little something every month. You know,
very cool.
Just as a little thank you to you guys for helping support us and everything. And here's the deal, man. Nobody's getting rich on this, not yet. You know,
not even close.
This is, and I'll be honest. This is the only Patreon right. I'm still looking for work, but Patreon right now is the only form of income that I am getting. So when you look at, because we're very transparent, the numbers on the screen. If that was your monthly income, how happy would you be? Just saying. So literally any dollar that you go through and help. So if you think this show is even worth a quarter, go ahead and do that. And the cool thing is, too, you get part of the Discord. You can vote on the movies, all kinds of stuff. And the more you give, the more you get. You know what I'm saying? It's fun times. And we have another one that's coming up pretty soon that I'm working on. We might have a sticker level coming up pretty soon, Bruce.
Oh, cool.
So
cool.
I think that's going to be fun, too. So we'll work on that. Let's see. I think. Let me check real quick. I thought we might have had an email, but I don't think so. Hold on.
I'm waiting.
Why don't you hum something while we do something?
Let's see.
I'm gonna see how long he does this. No, okay, all right, we did. And that was it was a regular other thing. Sometimes when there's a little ding, you're just like, wait a minute, I don't want to leave it out, especially if it's time sensitive to where they're just like, well, I did this thing and they decided not to read my stuff. No, that's not the case. This one is entitled nope, we already read that. Okay, so we did all the stuff. We've done all the reviews,
Okay.
We've done all the emails. Good night, everybody. This has been Here Movie Podcast. I'm Adam Portrais. No, okay. Oh, you want us to do the movie review? Fine, we'll do the movie review. Let's go ahead and take a listen to the trailer for Weird Science.
You know, it's not a bad idea.
What?
Making a girl. Actually making a girl.
This is Wyatt and Gary.
I'd give her Wamdigious mammary glands.
Something's about to change their world. Something out of this world.
She's alive! Alive!
What would you little maniacs like to do first?
It's all in the name of science. Weird science.
If you want to be a party animal, you have to learn to live in the jungle.
Not us.
Not here.
No way.
She is turning their lives,
Trust me for once, will you?
What is going on?
Gary, I don't know. I don't know.
their minds, and their house upside down.
It's seriously affecting your sex life.
It's completely unnatural.
Do you realize it's snowing in my room?
Totally unbelievable.
What's going on?
And definitely weird.
Hi, dudes.
They went from zeros to heroes in one fantastic weekend.
That's so good.
Universal Pictures presents a John Hughes film, Weird Science.
It's purely sexual.
That was a trailer for Weird Science, our Patreon review of technically last month.
Yeah, you know, we had to bump it for Kingsman. I don't think anybody's going to hate us for that.
Yeah, you got some Kingsman in there. Here's the IMDb plot line. Bruce, do you want the small one or the big one? That sounds like...
I always say, give me the small one, baby.
That's awesome. This one's nice and neat. Two high school nerds attempt to create the perfect woman, but she turns out to be more than that. Thanks for that, IMDb. You really knocked it out of the park here. That's written and directed by John Hughes, starring Anthony Michael Hall. Is it Ian Island?
Yeah.
Island Michael Smith, he didn't
Sure.
do much. Kelly LeBrock, we call him the other guy, really, if we're frank.
Yeah.
Kelly LeBrock, Robert Russler, Bill Paxton, and of course, Robert Downey Jr. But
RDJ? Only he was billed as just Robert Downey.
Oh, so it might have actually been his dad, and we don't even know.
They look a lot alike,
especially at that age. All right, well let's do the all important thing here, and why it's not opening up. I sure as shooting don't know. There it is.
Comic Book Connection.
Bruce, what do you have? Because I don't think a lot of people realize that this is an actual comic book movie. I sure shooting didn't.
Well, Weird Science was an American science fiction comic book published by EC in the 1950s. The comic ran for 22 issues, ending with the November-December 1953 issue. Weird Fantasy was a sister title published during the same time frame. But Weird Science replaced Saddle Romances in the EC Comics lineup. And now I wonder just how many stories about saddles falling in love there could have actually been anyway. Now, a few cool stories would show up in the publication's pages. One of them was called He Walked Among Us in issue number 13. And it was a take on organized religion in which a Christ-like astronaut helps the impoverished populace of an alien world, but is killed by those in power, prompting the birth of a religion. They also adapted some Ray Bradbury short stories. At first, they did so by just blatantly plagiarizing them. And then when he kind of called him out for it, they came to an agreement to actually reprint some of his stories. Now, it was Al Feldstein's story, Made of the Future, in the 5th issue that led truly to Weird Science greatness. Though it was over 30 years after it was published that John Hughes made it into a Brat Pack comedy. But the original story featured a jilted lover named Alvin Blank who stumbled upon a group of time travelers that chose to visit 1950. And I guess that's how vacations worked in the future. Anyway, they let him come visit the future with them, and while he was there, he got one of these make-your-own-lady, do-it-yourself kits. Oh. And he returned to 1950 with the aforementioned kit, and no surprise, he made a lady. Now, he was pretty darned happy with his homemade wife, but one day, out of the blue, she left home and never came back. He later discovered that she left him and returned to the future, leaving him all alone. Now, somehow that turned into the movie we're reviewing today, with Chet and Anthony Michael Hall and RDJ and Kelly LeBrock. And nothing against Kelly LeBrock, but if you had a woman making computer in the 80s, wouldn't you have gone for like Farrah Fawcett or Daisy Duke or, I don't know, maybe Smurfette? I mean, weird is in the name, so why not get weird with it? 2 hormone-addled teen boys running around town in a Porsche with Smurfette. That's $1 million idea right there. But you know, in 1985, the Smurfs were the only Saturday morning cartoon that had 90 minutes all to itself. But back to the source material. At least one blogger speculated that Made from the Future's male protagonist's name, Alvin Blank, may have influenced Jack Kirby in his later creation, Buddy Blank, also known as OMAC. And I don't know if there's any truth to that, but I'm trying to tie this movie in with some more recognizable comics. Oh, snap! I just realized that Iron Man is in this. So there you go, folks. This week's comic book connection is Iron Man.
Iron Man is in this movie. Shut up.
So is it clear now? The source material? I guess John Hughes, I mean, he was an older fella, so I bet he was a kid reading comics and, probably around the time this came out.
Yeah, let me see how old he would have been right around then, out of curiosity.
Because I know the story he wrote.
He was born in 1950, so probably, I don't know. That's a tough one.
Maybe a cousin or something had some comics that were 10 years old and he read through them. You got to remember, this was pre-VCR. People kept their comics around. When I was a kid, my aunts gave me comics they had.
Hey, look, I mean, we my dad still's got comics from the mid-'60s and earlier than that. So, who am I to sit here and be like, that's not a possibility? No, it definitely is a possibility.
But regardless of how old he was at the time, it's pretty obvious that 1950s culture was a strong influence on John Hughes. I mean, just look how everybody's dressed in all of his movies for the most part. That's true.
That's a bit of the time as well, I think, though. Right.
Yeah, it's important to point out this movie did come out the same year as Back to the Future, and Back to the Future really rushed in a lot of 50s nostalgia, at least where I lived.
Yeah, and I'll say this: as far like we'll get into it, but I don't. What was the budget on this was very small.
$7.5 million,
and it made like 38 million, like worldwide or something. So it did really, really good business. So it didn't have a whole heck of a lot of budget to it. So like when you compare it to something like Back to the Future, it's probably not going to look as good or seem as good. But you know, when you don't, the money's on the screen, especially when you have something produced by Steven Spielberg.
And I think something worth pointing out is I think it came in at the end of the year as number 15 or 16 at the box office in a loaded year.
Yeah.
But it never won a single weekend. So that kind of tells you that it had a lot of staying power because it didn't get all of its money on opening or anything like that. So I think that says a lot for the movie. And
that was, I mean, but that was also very indicative of the time and stuff too. I think E.T. had been like, and they weren't consecutive, but was like number 1 52 different weeks. So sometimes like things back then just ran forever.
But I just think it's cool that this movie made a lot more. Well, not a lot more, but it made more money than other movies that won the weekend. But it stuck around longer than they did.
Yeah, and this was actually John Hughes' second movie this year, third all around within this year, because I think he wrote another one as well. So that guy was quite busy in 1985, or probably 84.
Breakfast Club was 85, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
busy year, man.
Right there. So I mean, this is so as far as anyone's concerned, man. I'd say this is about height John Hughes hype right here.
And for what it's worth, it's also the same year that Police Academy 2 hit the big screen.
You know, it had its highs and its lows for 1985. It did.
Yeah. Interesting. It was a busy year for Gutenberg because Cocoon also came out in 1985.
That Gutenberg, man, you can't stop him. As much as darn it, as much as we try, we can't stop the Goot.
So just before we get into the nuts and bolts of the movie, just overall, how do you think it holds up compared to other 85 movies? Because 85 was a pretty good year.
Yeah. All right, so here's where we're going to have some fun, Bruce, because I am not of the age. So I was 3 when this movie came out. You were probably what, 13?
No, I think it was 12.
12, yeah.
11 or 12, depends on what time of year it came out. Actually,
August.
I was almost certainly 11. Yeah.
Yeah,
August. I didn't turn
2nd.
12 till 86. So.
So yeah, this is a little bit more in your wheelhouse, you know, and especially once this hit VHS and stuff, definitely more towards your staple than mine. This movie's painful. It's not horrible, but there's a lot in this movie that is very 85, that is very dated. Some of it is, and let me tell you something, and you can ask around, and I think you've known me long enough. I'm not one of those people that gets offended by a lot of stuff, and I wouldn't say I was offended by this movie, but there's some stuff where it's just like, oh boy.
There's some things in this movie that definitely wouldn't have been in a 1995 movie.
Oh boy, this is real. I thought we were.
Here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say it holds up, but not in the way it was intended to hold up.
Okay.
And what I mean is, in 1986 is probably when I would have seen it the most, when it hits HBO, and they showed it all the time on HBO, and I'd go to my cousin's house and watch it over and over again. But at the time, I used to watch it as a straight up science fiction story. Like that's how I interpreted it then. Right. And now when I'm watching it back, just the sheer absurdity. Like, I love stuff that is off the rails, ludicrous bananas. And this is definitely like way more campy than I ever realized back then. And I think it holds up because of just how ridiculous it is. And you just can't find much that is so straight up, for lack of a better word, cocaine euphoria induced productions like this.
You're right. This I'll definitely grant you that from a camp level, it is astrological.
Because there's no sane person. I don't care what era you lived in. There's no reasonable, sane, sober, non-high person who thinks that using a computer is going to cause a lightning storm that puts a guy in the TV so you can change channels and watch him interact with the shows. Like, that happens in this.
Yeah. It's like, oh, guess what? You're on the Munsters now. It's like, huh? Okay.
And it was played like straight. I mean, straight up mass studio produced. Like, it was not intended to be like weird in a David Lynch way, but I could see you change the theme music and the tone of the movie a little bit, and it feels David Lynch at times.
Just slow down the edit, color time a little bit different. That's, it could happen.
And boy, Bill Paxton, man, when he takes a job, he doesn't care. He's going to give you everything he's got, I believe, because Chet left nothing back. He did not hold back as Chet, man. Carries the movie for me. I've always loved to hate Chet, and now I actually kind of just love to love Chet.
You know what's so great about the 80s and stuff when we look back at all of them? Everyone's teeth were so bad. Everybody.
And they weren't really bad so much as they were just big. And I think it's honestly because they were skinnier in the 80s. Like now, even your average person is a little chubbier than they were in 1985. And I think the rest of their face caught up to their teeth.
Maybe that was part of our human evolution, is we're all trying to catch up to teeth.
But boy, there were some choppers in this movie. I mean, they were straight and they were white, so I wouldn't say they were bad teeth. They were just big.
I don't know. Some of them were a little gappy. Some of them are a little bit. I mean, I don't know. It's just they're not perfect. It's not Hollywood teeth. I'll tell you that.
At first, I really thought Paxton was wearing some kind of prosthetics to make his teeth look that big.
Right?
But it becomes obvious, no, that's just what his mouth looked like in 85.
Yeah, you get up close and it's just like, no, they couldn't have faked that. Not in this time of day. Those are real, boy. Whew. It's like you go back and look at Mallrats and how Ben Affleck's got tiny little teeth. But how do you explain that?
And I exactly.
Did he outgrow the teeth? Did he go above and beyond where the measure of teeth are?
He hit the gym to bulk up so his teeth wouldn't stand out so much.
I got to get bigger than these teeth. And then Michael Bay comes in and knocks them all out for Armageddon.
Look at the size of John Travolta's teeth when he's on Welcome Back, Kotter. Then find him in something now where he's nice and fat and the teeth look smaller. But the truth is, it's just the rest of him's bigger.
The science of teeth. You guys didn't think you were getting that show today, did you?
Not at all. Now, I think this is the one movie that people forget has a Danny Elfman theme song.
Yeah, I mean, it's not one of his most thematic ones, because that's the big thing with Danny Elfman, is that you'll always kind of be able to pick it out and be able to, spot one from 3 miles away because they're so, on point with everything.
I don't know. I don't want to say only, because you're always asking for somebody to pull out some kind of independent movie that showed on 3 college campuses to prove you wrong. But this might be the only one that was done as Oingo Boingo. The whole band. It definitely sounds like, for the intro, you played Thomas Dolby. And I feel like somebody said, okay, we can't get Dolby, so Oingo Boingo, you need to get us a song that still feels as 85 as possible or 84 as possible. So they got Weird Science, which clearly clearly it wants you to kind of think maybe you're listening to She Blinded Me with Science. And I don't know which came first. Like, somebody can send me an email and say that the Weird Science song from Oingo Boingo, it may have come out a year before Thomas Dolby, but I don't care. I think Danny Elfman had an advanced copy that nobody else knew about, so he could make this song.
I'm trying to look at this record label. 1982.
Okay, good. So I'm back on the high ground by saying, man, they didn't have Thomas Dolby money, so they went after Oingo Boingo. That's when your production's in a little bit of trouble, when you don't have Thomas Dolby money.
Thomas Dolby was so passé at the time, though. Who could put him up there? No, thank you.
But it's funny, man, because if you listened to, if you don't know the behind the scenes and you listen to the Weird Science theme song and then you listen to, let's say, the Simpsons theme song, you're probably not going to guess that that's the same guy on your own.
No, and honestly, that's one of the big things with Danny Elfman was that, and people did not want to take him seriously as an actual composer for so many years, just because it's just like, oh, the guy from the rock band? No.
Yeah,
what do you know about this? It's just like, listen to it, dummy. Give him a chance.
Yeah, and Danny Elfman was a young guy once, and he wanted to be in a band, man. So he was in Oingo Boingo, and if you're going to play bars, you're not going to play orchestral cinematic tunes, so you got to play some music.
If you'll all sit back and enjoy this lovely bit from Bach, we're going to be able to, get your beers to you in short order. So thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for coming out tonight.
And I think we talked about most of this in the pre-show, but I do want to point out that I forgot just how how much R-rated type stuff was in this movie till I rewatched it. I forgot how, let's just say, modern sensibilities would say that this was definitely not a movie that treated women with respect. Definitely, maybe even poked a little fun at ethnic groups you wouldn't see nowadays either.
No, you're definitely right. So this is definitely, and I'll say this for you guys: if you've been like most people and probably seen this on television, prepare yourself if you get, a DVD or something, because this would be considered R-rated today by people.
Oh yeah.
And because it's maybe not a hard R, but at least, a good slight R, because, there's a tiny little bit of nudity, a little less nudity for a John Hughes film, though, by and large. I guess he could branch into that a little bit later.
And for a John Hughes movie, I think they treat the females more like commodities than most John Hughes movies do. A lot of them have the female perspective shown pretty strong. Here, the only female perspective we get is this insane computer-generated Lisa. The two girls that the guys are liking, they actually are like trying to trade for them, like they're trading baseball cards at one point.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's also the part where Anthony Michael Hall tells the lady, even though she's a villainess, I guess you would call her, the one that's like got the chain around her neck and everything, and he tells her, shut up, the B word. That just seemed harsh by today's standards. And of course, Chet throwing around the FAG word a lot too.
Yeah, it's just, well, that's certainly indicative of 1980s,
yeah,
culture and things of that nature, to where it was just like, and honestly, it's like language is fine. Language is always something that really kind of adapts to a degree and stuff. But like, we'll go in order in just a sec. But like you said, one of the things there of like, when we get to a scene and, Anthony Michael Hall's character is drunk, which by the way, these kids are 15 in this flick, 14, 15 years old.
One is 15, one is 16.
There you go. And
Anthony Michael Hall is 16, the other guy's 15.
And they are and he's drunk off of his face, and he's basically, and if you read it, you figure out, that makes sense what he's doing. He's basically doing like a over the top Richard Pryor impression. And it's not, and it's not becoming.
Yeah. I'm trying to think, what is the word? Cultural appropriation, is that the term?
Yeah, it's just like it's
yeah. So I think it could be offensive in that regard, but to be honest, he for the time it was novel. It's not like now, man, where there are people that legitimately talk that way in their everyday life and think it makes them cool or something. You know what I mean? Like at the time, it was a bit of a novelty, and he didn't say anything offensive, not like the level of race jokes you would get in a 70s like airplane movie or something.
Right. It wasn't just like, I'm saying offensive things. It was just the way in which he said it was very kind of minstrelly in a way, And
the one thing I would say that makes it bad, and it takes a little bit of meta knowledge, but he does pretty much the exact same shtick in The Breakfast Club. When he's pretending to be a blues man in The Breakfast Club. So I feel like maybe one time he auditioned and they told him to do some impersonations, so he did that, and that's what John Hughes liked about him, because he did that in 2 movies in the same year for John Hughes.
It's just like, look, this is your bit. You're gonna ride this home. You're gonna ride this all on out until the day you die. You are the white boy doing the old blues man impression.
And I think more than the impression, because I guess I was a little braced for that, because familiar with The Breakfast Club and sort of saw it coming the moment they went into that bar. But what got me is when he's talking about this girl that broke his heart. She's this 8th grade girl with them big what
chowder buckets.
Yeah, chowder buckets. That's right. She was an 8th grader with some big chowder buckets, and all these grown men are going, really? She had the big chowder bucket? I mean, they're like carrying on about an 8th grader's chowder buckets like it's no big deal. That caught my attention as being maybe something that you'd have less tolerance for now than you would have back then. There's a part, and I don't want to throw it all out there, but there's also the part where Kelly LeBrock's character holds up a pair of lacy underwear to an old lady and says, if you were a 15-year-old boy, would you like these? Like, man, that's kind of getting close to that, what's her name, Mary Kay Letourneau kind of territory all of a sudden. For modern day, it's a little too close to home than it was in 85.
Yeah, but and the thing is this, though, is like a lot of it is just, I mean, it even goes back to the old 50s and 60s stuff. It's like, you're 16, you're beautiful in your mind. It's just like, aren't you like 45 when you're singing this song?
Man. Yeah, there's a song, Sexy and 17, that still gets sung by old people.
She's only 17. It's like, oh, boy. Daddy, I mean, like literally in the song, Daddy says she's too young, but she's old enough for me. It's like, oh my dear heavens.
Yes, young girl, get
That's
out
another
of my
one.
mind.
But here's the difference. That's a really good song. Despite that,
My love for you is way out of line.
Gary,
Okay, but
Gary Puckett, Union Gap, everybody.
something interesting too is Kelly LeBrock. Now, I don't know exactly how old Anthony Michael Hall is, but I looked it up because they do have a scene where she's making out, like hot and heavy open mouth kissing with the other guy.
Mm-hmm.
And she really is like 9 years older than that other guy. So he was pretty close to his character's age when this was being filmed. And she's like 25 or 24, something like that. And I thought, okay, so in the show, it's just a movie, but it had to be kind of weird or awkward on set too. And it's just weird.
And it's interesting
Not quite as weird as when that little boy kissed. Didn't a little boy kiss Tom Cruise's ex-wife in a movie once? That movie Birth, Nicole Kidman.
I think so. I forget.
That was pretty weird too, man.
The age-wise, they weren't all that far off. I mean, Kelly LeBrock, it looks like she was born in 60, and
and he was born in 68 or 69.
Yeah, and both the guys. Actually, Anthony Michael Hall's the youngest one, so he was born in 68.
So
69 for
I
the
thought the other guy was
Wyatt.
born in 69.
Nope, vice versa.
Okay, 68.
So
But still, it's an 8-year difference. When you're 15, man. Like my school teachers were 8 years older than me when I was 15.
well, the I can't talk today. The thing that I read was Michael Smith's character. He was actually the one who got a little tonguey in the making out scenes with her. And Anthony Michael Hall, apparently a gentleman.
Yeah, I could see it, man. That other guy knew he wasn't going to make too many more movies.
He's like, look, I'm not going anywhere. I got to grab life by the horns.
But let's start at the beginning here, man, because I think we can run through the beats pretty quick.
Yeah, it's not a complicated film.
But, it starts outside of a gym class where Anthony Michael Hall and the other guy, which is what I'm going to call him, man. I'm not going to call him by that name that we can't agree on how to pronounce. I might call him Wyatt every now and then.
Yeah, this is they're definitely the Wham of 80s John Hughes movies.
Yeah, but so they're standing there at the gym talking about how great it would be to go on a date with these two cute girls that they see at the other end of the gym. And the first thing that comes through my mind when I'm watching this opening scene is, man, John Hughes really thought schools had excellent budgets for their PE class, because they have like Olympic level gymnastics equipment.
They're on all the stuff, man. They got all the pads. They got all the the bars and the horses and whatnot. I don't know all the technical terms. But they're everywhere, dude. There's it's almost like this is that high school competed in some real high events, man.
All my high school had was 2 basketball goals and this rope with some knots in it that hang from the middle. Like that was it. That was it for equipment.
Get to the top, boy.
That's why all we ever played was relay races and basketball. And we had to bring our own shoes. But anyway, just caught my attention.
Bring your own. Hold on. Bring your own. What school's providing shoes, Bruce?
Well, they were clearly providing like gymnastics leotards for some of these young ladies that were there on the parallel bars.
Go ahead. Keep going.
But I wonder, like, did John Hughes actually go visit a high school and see this? Because I feel like he filmed this at the U.S. Gymnastics Olympic Training Facility or something.
I don't know, man. Maybe the kids in Chicago do way more in the Olympics than they do here in the South.
That's always a possibility, I guess. But of course, RDJ and the other guy.
Again,
there's a couple of
it's
other
all
guys.
Whams.
But RDJ and the other guy pull down their shorts, and then they, kind of stand there embarrassed because their shorts were pulled down in front of all the kids in gym class. And man, all my life I would have given anything for hair like RDJ has when he pulls that kid's shorts down. I don't know how you get it so curly and so high up in the air and so glistening like that. It's like almost like a little bit of the what did they call that in Coming to America? Soul Glow.
Soul Glow, a little after.
It's almost like they squirted that and then lifted it up. He's got some good hair in this movie, man. Much better hair than he has in any Iron Man film.
Step up your hair game, RDJ. Step it up.
Had he made many movies before this?
Yeah, I think he had a couple under his belt.
I mean, I know like his first movie he was 4 years old or something, but I don't count that. His dad made a movie and stuck him in like as a kid. But I didn't know if this was his, because I did notice in the credits they didn't put the junior there, which I thought was weird.
Well, it's always a weird thing with that. At certain times and stuff, you'll get billed as certain things, and depend upon how many, who's to say. Let me look and see what the earliest is here. It's gonna be pretty close.
You got to say, I think it was
about
a mistake.
It's about his like sixth thing. 1, 2, 3.
Wow, so he'd done more than I realized at this
It's
point.
about his seventh role.
Because
Most uncredited looks like kind of cameo type stuff. So.
Okay, because anybody from this point on has to know it's a mistake to sort of cast RDJ as a bad guy, because he's just too darn charismatic. I mean, he gives you those pretty eyes and that smile, even if he is kind of dressed up like a reject from Flock of Seagulls for half the movie. Like he has a formal dinner jacket and a pair of shorts and yellow socks. I mean, he has some crazy fashion choices, but he's still just too darn charming to be a bad guy.
Yeah, it just like he's got a mischievous face instead of like a threatening face. It's just kind of like a guy who's just up to no good.
Yeah, he's roguishly handsome rather than just a rogue.
Yeah, there you are. I see what you did there.
So they go back to Wyatt's house, and this is when one of the greatest tropes ever to come out of the 80s happens. And this probably isn't the first incident of it, but man, it is the best. And it's that trope, computers can do anything. And I wish Sean were here, because he loves to talk about that whole idea that in the 80s we thought computers could do anything. And man, they're taking it to the extreme in this movie.
They're watching stuff. There's all these graphics on screen. It's like
they're watching Frankenstein.
Well, yeah. There's that. Well, let's talk about that for a second, because the whole Frankenstein thing, first of all, and colorized, first of all, just no.
That was my question. Like, was 85 some kind of peak time for Ted Turner colorizing old movies?
That's
because
about
I watched
era.
that and I thought, what kind of weird remake are they watching of Frankenstein? And then I looked on IMDb. It said that was actually the 1931 Frankenstein. And that's when I thought, oh man, Ted Turner strikes again, because he went on a tear. I know one time he colorized something that had Frank Sinatra in it and gave him brown eyes.
I always like the Family Guy joke where it's just like, I've done the world a favor. I've colorized the moon.
I'd like to see somebody take it the other way. Go black and white a few movies.
Look, man, the Fury Road, you can buy that in black and white now.
Yeah, that's true, man. And Logan.
Yeah, I got that. I got that. I still haven't watched it in the black and white yet.
There's part of me that wonders if he ever colorized the intro to Wizard of Oz, because he totally didn't get it.
Dude, would not be shocked. But it's in black. No, sir. It represents no color.
Now, man, let's talk about the ingredients to creating a woman, and then we'll talk at the end of the movie what it turns out was the important part. Had nothing to do with most of what they were doing. But man, so they first off hacking the government. I guess they need more power. So they first off in 1985, a computer was still a rarity. A computer in your bedroom was reserved almost exclusively for billionaires and people in John Hughes movies.
Yeah, let's put it this way though. John Hughes movies, by and large, none of the kids were ever poor.
yeah, man. He
were
loved
poor,
the wealthiest suburb of Chicago.
If they were poor, they were characters. There were characters that were poor. Like you could imagine, Judge's character there in Breakfast Club. You can imagine him being like poor, but we never went to his house. But anyone's house stuff that we went to, those kids always had money.
Even the kid who was supposed to be poor in the Breakfast Club got like 4 cartons of cigarettes for Christmas. That's over $100.
Yeah,
man.
that's exactly.
And he's complaining about it.
Even the poor kid who was getting cartons of cigarettes, cartons.
It's like in 16 Candles, I think it was, that Molly Ringwald's family was like the poor family, but she still like wasn't that poor. You know what I mean?
Yeah, anyway. Exactly. It's like when you have like kids in the family and like everyone gets their own room. It's just like, that's not poor, dude. That's not poor.
Yeah, you say, my family's poor and you're still wearing, $700 worth of clothes to school. But anyway, so let's get back to the point. So they start the computer equipment. Like you get the idea that John Hughes knew what a scanner looked like, but he decided that he didn't like what it looked like. So he went to an old 1950s sci-fi movie set and borrowed some flashing lights to stick on everything that was part of this kid's computer, because as they use more and more of the computer, man, it looks like it's taken up a full 25% of his bedroom. That scanner with the blinking lights itself was amazing.
It's so big, it's so cumbersome, and it's like, why would he have any of this stuff?
Yeah, what was he doing? And they fed it in like a shredder, man, and the stuff they put in there, like I can understand. They're putting in some pictures from a girly magazine. You know,
you want them to
sense.
look attractive. That's what you're like, hey, we scanned this, make it look like this.
And then they put in a picture of Houdini. And I don't want to get too far into the blue material here, but I imagine Houdini was flexible and maybe they want some of that. But then they put in a picture of David Lee Roth. And man, I've lived through every era of David Lee Roth's career, and there is not one thing about that guy that you want to put into a potential girlfriend.
Like, no.
And it shows, man, because she uses more and more hairspray as this movie goes on.
I want
By
my
the
lady
end,
to
it looks
do
like she has an Afghan. What's that?
I want my lady to do some sort of a windmill kick on somebody.
Yeah, she has all of David Lee Roth's hairspray in, though, because it looks like she has an Afghan hound in her hair for the third act of this movie.
Oh, it's a bit, boy, her hair just gets more 80s as this movie goes on. It's just like the 80s just start seeping into the deep pores of this thing.
There's a whole square yard in the hole in the ozone layer just called Kelly LeBrock's contribution there from this movie.
I got to get used to this Aquanet.
And then they've got electrical cords. I guess also the secret is more power, because they've got electrical cords running all through the house to the computer. Like, that's how computing power works, Adam. You know, if your computer's kind of lagging a little bit, you're pinwheeling a lot, just find a way to shove more electrical cords into it. Because computing, you don't need a better CPU. You don't need more disk space. You just need 2 more electrical cords plugged into your computer somehow.
But somehow it still needs to go through the crock pot or something. It's like, what is going on here?
And then when they hack the government, the way hacking works, it says access denied, and he just like makes it go away like it was hit by a bowling ball. And next thing you know, he's in.
And it's always, it's computers in the 80s, so it's always just like these animation things, like
bad vector graphics.
Like you could just like if they knew what seeing the Matrix would be, it's like they're doing it but in the 80s. Look at it, you can see all the insides of the computer. Like EMC squared like floats across the screen. Like, what is this?
That's
garbage?
how we say smart stuff is happening. That's shorthand for smart stuff. E equals MC squared.
It's all the smart things. Shut up, it's a computer. You don't know how it works. We don't know how it works. It's all gobbledygook and fairy dust magic. Shut up.
And did you notice he had a screensaver? I don't know that in 1985 a lot of people had screensavers, particularly not this 3D vector graphics thing he had on his screen there.
I don't remember it.
Oh, man, these things catch my attention. But anyway, they hack into the government, who's still using reel-to-reel tape for their data storage. Did you notice that? Magnetic tape. The sad thing is,
yeah.
I think that they're still using like 5 1/4 inch floppies at our nuclear silos. No lie.
Yeah, there's something about that. The amount of time and money that it would take to transfer it over. It's something that's ungodly. So you're not wrong. There's things like that are still protecting us today.
Yeah, and they argue. I don't know if they really believe this or if it's like an after the fact rationalization, but they say that it's more difficult to hack into outdated material. But I've got the solution to that, man. I get my car and go get Matthew Broderick because I saw him do it in War Games.
Or so Battlestar Galactica would have us believe.
Yeah. Oh, but the key part, though, is they take like miniature little jumper cables and hook them to a Barbie doll. First off,
yep.
Do we ever see a sister? Like, we never see that the other guy has a sister. We see Chet. We see mom and dad. We see pictures of mom and dad. We see mom and dad come home. We see grandma and grandpa. We don't see a sister, yet there's a Barbie doll in the house. And there's another scene later in the movie where they go into a room that looks like a girl's bedroom with little horses up on the shelf. So I've got this dark theory that the other guy, Wyatt, has been deeply depressed ever since his younger sister died in an accident or something. Like there's this horrific death of a sister nobody's talking about.
I got it. She's like Judy on Family Matters. Somebody just told her to go up. She just goes, I'm going upstairs, everybody. And then she was just gone. But her room still remains.
Oh, man, nobody's touched the room since that horrific death that she had when Chet shot her with a double-barrel shotgun.
Oh, it should have had that like little thing. Another John Hughes type connection. Like, it should have had like the thing like in Gremlins where it just goes off and there's like a non sequitur story about how his sister died.
She was dressed like Santa Claus and tried to come down the chimney.
Yep.
Oh, man. But so next thing you know, this computer sucks up all the power in the house. The washing machine blows its lid. The dryer blows its front.
As it does.
I don't know. They start shooting stuff out of chimneys and things like that. And
Books
then the
come out of the
door-
bookcase. How? I don't. Why? Who knows?
And then the door starts like bulging like a big bubble. And did you notice he has a sign on his door that says, "I break for women"?
Oh, yeah.
I miss 1985. It was a simpler time then. But then the door,
I had my no
explodes.
fat chicks bumper sticker.
Oh, man, I had warning human gas leak was hanging up in my bedroom. No lie, I had that up. But anyway, so the door explodes, and there stands Kelly LeBrock. And here's what I'm going to say. Kelly LeBrock looks the best she's going to look in this whole movie in the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And she, she's a lovely lady, and she continues to be a lovely lady. But it seemed to me like the further the movie went on, the more the style, the fashion,
The more
hair,
1980s she got, man.
and as a result, it's like the longer she's there, the less like a fantasy she seems, and you're almost ready for her to go by the time she leaves at the end.
I don't know. I mean, and that's an interesting statement. I wonder, because the way that the trajectory that the story takes, I wonder. I can't say that that's got to be on purpose, but it feel. Who knows? It might be. But
of course, they do have
probably
her show
not.
up again at the very end.
Yeah, but yeah, you're right. This is about this as hot as she's gonna look, and it's not just because she's only in her underpants. It is like, just from the hairstyle perspective, from everything, she's the most attractive there. Though I gotta say, what's his face there, the other member of Wham, he don't look half bad in her panties either.
You know what? Maybe those underwear are the secret, because I'm with you. I was like, I never knew that Wyatt, was so fit.
Wyatt's got this thing up there, and I'm just like, are we looking at some crying game stuff right here? What's going on? Because all of a sudden, like, for a second, I swear on everything, I thought there was some sort of switch and she was in the bed and I didn't see. This just like, was that some sort of weird angle? And then she has, a bulge happening there, and it's like, no. It's just he's got a, like, puberty has just not hit him quite yet, and he's still got a slight feminine build there.
Oh man, it looks like maybe he jogs or something.
Yeah, and it's like, and then the butt shot going around the other side. It's just like, who is this for?
And I remembered, most of the details of making the lady. I remember putting the bras on their heads, and then you realize that Wyatt either has his mom's bra on his head or his dead sister's bra on his head. And neither one of those is a real appeal. I mean, even when you were 15, would you have thought it was a good idea to wrap one of your mom's bras around your head?
No, I can't come
That
up with a
would've been weird to me,
situation
man.
where that really comes to place. And like, the great part is like, they even address it, and then it's like a never you mind.
It's basically because Anthony Michael Hall's character, Gary, just wanted he wanted to put one of Wyatt's mom's bras around his head, and he thought it would make him look less weird and creepy and pervy if he had Wyatt do it
It's
too.
essentially just like, this looks funny, and that's why we're doing it. Shut up.
They could have at least went to the store and bought clean bras, but it's either the dead sister or the mom, and those look more like middle-aged lady bra than dead teenage girl bra.
Yeah, but frankly, though, I don't think those fit mom. When you see her coming back in, that seems like it belongs to a bigger-chested lady.
Grandma?
Ooh, yes.
Because
Yes.
Grandma looked like she needed
Grandma
some
could have
support.
filled those out. Yes, you're not wrong.
And I remembered that they made Lisa here, but I forgot of all the magic powers Lisa had. Like I said, I've seen the movie a lot, but it's been a long time. And, when we first catch on, when they're dressing up to go out to party with Lisa, and they walk through the door and the little electrical crackles go around them and their suits turn into the dark suits instead of the suits they, the more regular suits, I guess, that they had on before. And that's when I kind of clicked, oh, yeah, she has magic powers in this. And she makes the pink Cadillac, which to my dissatisfaction goes away awfully quick, and they replace it with what I think are uglier, if more expensive cars.
Yeah, pretty much. But did he? Because he didn't really crash it per se.
He didn't crash it, man. I just think that they used the pink Cadillac for the introduction of her, and then they wanted to show off maybe John Hughes's car collection and work the Porsche and the Ferrari.
They're
into
like,
it.
you got it. Shut up.
But 1985 was not a high time in car design, because even those very expensive, high-end, fancy supercars weren't that attractive. They didn't look that different from like a Fiaro or a Datsun or something.
Yeah, the Porsche kind of looks like crap. The Ferrari looks okay. It's not like It's not your like 60s, kind of style or anything.
I'll
but
say you take a Ferrari from 10 years earlier or 10 years later, either one looks way better than the 85.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Yeah, but anyway, so they go out, they go to the blues club. And man, when I was a kid, this is what I thought would happen if you went to a bar. If you went into a bar, a big tough guy would threaten to beat you up if you didn't drink all of his booze. Now, as an adult, I realize that it's almost the exact opposite of that. People will beat you up if you try to drink their booze. Like, there's nobody in a bar that wants to force somebody to drink, is there?
I've never come across this in all of my life. I've always kind of
not a stranger. I mean, maybe your friends that are a little drunk and they think they're being funny and say, drink it or wear it or something like that. But I've never had an absolute stranger say, drink.
I'm still looking for the people that are just like supposedly on every street corner trying to offer me drugs. Like that never happens. We were told that's going to happen all the time. You'll be walking down the street and somebody's be like, I'm going to give you some drugs. Take them. And you're going to be like, no, sir, I don't do drugs. That's never once happened to me. I've never been just offered drugs.
But man, I have been offered many pyramid multi-level marketing schemes.
Here's what you want to do.
That's the new thing.
And you'll have a couple people working right under you.
I do like the part where she makes some fake IDs and Wyatt has like a devil goatee and thin mustache on his.
It's just like, here, you're evil Spock. Go on.
And, it's funny when he goes into the urinal, like she wants to go out to party. And you would think, especially 1985, she wants to go to whatever the local equivalent of Studio 54 is or something, but she likes to go to a rundown blues club. Like, that's her idea of partying.
I'm telling you, man, it's that David Lee Roth that's inside her, man.
I do like it, though, when Wyatt goes to the bathroom and the urinals, all three guys turn around and look at him and go, and then turn back to the urinal. That was kind of funny. Goes into the stall and sits down without looking first. Have you ever used a stall without looking to see if someone was sitting on the
That's the only way I use stalls is backing into them.
Back in, sit down, and hope for the best. But I love it. He sits down and you see he's on somebody's lap.
Another pair of shoes sitting out there. I'm just like, what? No, man, just no.
And by the time he gets back, Gary's all drunk and they've made friends and they're talking about an eighth grader's chowder buckets, and
it just gets weird and everybody is uncomfortable.
On a little longer than it needs to.
Way longer than it needs to. It's super uncomfortable.
You know what would have made the scene work for me?
If you say blackface, I'm gonna kill you.
No, but the older lady, the older woman of color that was sitting next to Wyatt.
Yeah.
If her and Wyatt had started getting kind of friendly as the story went on, but like not drawing attention to it, like, you cut away and you see Gary, you cut back there a little bit closer, you cut away, you see Gary, you cut back, his arms around her, you cut away, you see Gary, you come back, they're kissing, you cut away, you see Gary, you come back and the seat's empty, you cut away, you see Gary, you come back and they're coming back adjusting their shirts or something. But
his hair's all messed up.
That would have made it work for
That would have made that scene work so well. But here's the thing. Now, at the same time, let's talk about this because now this. Okay, so we're in the first night here. They finally get home,
and this is when Chet comes into all his full glory.
All right, you go ahead with the Chet because this is your favorite bit.
Man, it's just first of all, the way that Bill Paxton sells this character, man, like he's not just obnoxious. He's like a Ernest Saves Christmas level character portrayal.
Yes.
And he is all in on it, man. Like Bill Paxton, first off, the bad haircut. Like that is like there's no faking that flat top. Bill Paxton wore that thing around for at least 6 weeks while they were filming this movie, which is awesome for me to think. He really pulls off the idea that like, man, he thinks he's like the sort of disciplined military guy, but he's got to be pushing 30. And his only joy in life is making his high school aged brother miserable.
And kind of promised to give him money he may just not have.
Yeah, and I like it because he says, how much is it going to cost me? And man, he says $175.00, which makes me wonder, like, how does he calculate? Like, why doesn't he just go for 200? Why doesn't he go for 150? 175? That tells me there's something that he saw that costs $175, and all he can think about is getting that one item. Like, he can't think about the long con. He can't think about even something like sales tax. I see him throwing a fit in the store when they tell him there's like $4 sales tax or something and he can't buy it.
Come on, Chet, you need a little wham, a little walking around money. What's your problem, dude? Get it up to 200, man.
But I love everything about Chet, how obnoxious he is, just the lines out of his mouth, the big teeth, the facial expressions he makes, smoking a cigar in the house. Like, you get the idea, if mom and dad were home, he would not dare smoke a cigar in the house. He's, I don't know how old Bill Paxton is, but I want to say maybe 26 at the most when he's filming this.
That sounds about right.
And he's walking around in old man boxers and the tank top like Archie Bunker would wear. I just love everything about it. Like I think he would have been a good Biff Tannen.
No, definitely. I mean, had it been,
I like the guy who did it better, but this is that same kind of vein.
No, like, okay, so had like it been, Back to the Future started like here or something, wouldn't have been bad.
Yeah, but I liked everything about Chet, man. I just had fun watching him be a ridiculous, over the top performance from Bill Paxton the whole way through.
Now these guys are in here, and they've got this lady, and like their biggest thing is like they want to get with a lady because they're little high school kids and girls don't like them, blah 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 blah. And they have one who has literally said many a time, "It is my job to do whatever you say to do," and and things of that nature. And they never take advantage of it. They never. It seems weird. It does not seem like it computes.
Here's what I can say. And everybody lives their life on their own trajectory. Everybody matures at their own rate. But there were, when I was 15 years old, if a 26-year-old model said you can do whatever you want, I probably would have wanted to do everything, but would have been far too self-conscious and nervous and scared to have done anything. Like the whole idea that when they climb in the shower with her, they keep their pants on. Like, I would have been that guy.
Right, and I understand that, but like at the same time too, they still continue to talk big game, and but it's not even. It's almost not that it's not even broached by them. It's not even like they start to make an attempt and then just go, well, this seems kind of. It doesn't even seem like they're trying even. And
I'm sad to say that I think I can relate to these kind of characters.
And I get it because I would have been too. But
here's what they really want. They want people to think. Other way. They want people to think they've been with a lady. Like, they want the ego boost of people thinking they've been with a lady more than they want the actual physical satisfaction of being with a lady.
That's true, and honestly, that's like most guys of that age, to be frank.
Yeah. Like you don't even really know what to expect from the physical satisfaction, but it's all about the bragging rights and stuff like that.
You just want to look good in front of other people. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's much more about man, it's the reason maybe that they want to go out with these popular girls is more about they'll think that it'll make them more popular than they actually know anything about these girls' personalities. They've only looked at them from afar for the most part.
That's true. They've really not interacted with almost anyone other than themselves.
And I guess, I don't know, anything more to say. They wake up and think it was a dream. And Hollywood loves this idea that people have shared dreams. But I swear, man, if let's say we went to Dragon Con or somewhere and you and I were sharing a hotel, and when it was time to get up and start getting ready and you woke up first and said, man, did you have that same dream I did where so-and-so? I mean, I would think I would be calling for one of those mental hygiene commissioners to take
you're a nut job. You are a certified crazy person. Not I'm going to entertain this for a moment.
I don't know. Do you want to talk much about the mall when the icy gets dumped on them?
It is what it is. It's all right.
The only good part about it is Robert Downey Jr.'s outfit there.
It's
with the short leg pants and the yellow socks and the formal double-breasted jacket and the slick curly hair.
Well, I gotta say that was Robert Russler, his little buddy there. That was his first acting thing ever, and his first take for that right there. That whole scene was his first scene in movies ever. And honestly,
it wasn't very demanding.
No, but he's gotten a lot better over the years, and actually better looking even. Well, he's one of those dudes that wakes up and all of a sudden he's 40 and just goes, "Oh, look, I'm actually an attractive actor now," as opposed to just some
I thought he was handsome enough in this movie.
He's better looking now. You hear me, Robert Russell? You're better looking now.
And this is when they break out the Porsche 928, and I'm wondering where the pink Cadillac went because, I know that the Porsche 928 was a status symbol car then, but on screen, in Mannequin they had the pink Cadillac, right? They didn't have a Porsche in Mannequin.
Yeah, Mannequin was great.
But I think the next.
Why didn't we watch Mannequin?
Because it's not a comic book movie.
Crud.
Unless I dig deeper and find out it was.
Come on, Mannequin.
She goes to meet Gary's parents, and this is where you get to see like the poor family, the quote unquote poor family. Though they still have a nice house. His dad's a plumber, which is not a bad job, man.
He's making all right.
I know people certainly do a lot worse than plumbers. But she goes to meet Gary's family, and I kind of like this whole interaction. I see a lot of fun. Anthony Michael Hall was really good when he was a teenager as an actor because how well and how spontaneously and how quick he plays off of like the comment about what she accuses him of doing with the magazine in the bathroom and the way the mom acts. I thought it was a fun scene.
It's not bad. It's all right. I mean, it's over the. It is what it is. It's okay.
and his dad, the plumber, has a little bit of Cousin Eddie going on.
Oh, there's definitely a bit of Cousin Eddie there. That's for darn sure.
And I do like the way when he says to Lisa, Gary's dad, "Get out of my house," and she puts her finger in his chest and says, "You're out of shape. I'll kick your butt." Pulls the gun on him. His mom's freaking out, and then it's kind of the running gag because she erases Gary's dad's memory of Gary. So for the rest of the movie, he's like, "Who's this Gary you're talking about?" And that actress that they cast to play his mom is the perfect actress to play a mom in anything, man. She looks like a mom.
That kind of stuff is going on.
2 years later, Edie McClure would come along and steal all her thunder.
Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose.
So kind of the big part of the movie, I guess you'd call it the climax, but it's a little too drawn out to call it a climax. I would just call it the third act, is the party.
Mm-hmm.
Well, man, once again, I love this movie, but not for the reasons they intended me to, or at least not for the reasons I did the first time I saw it back in the 80s. But I love it when she says, "I invited a few of your friends." The doorbell rings. You open the door, and like all 300 guests showed up simultaneously.
And
like
I love how they also showed up and they were all just dead silent.
And they just all hold up a hand to wave at the same time. I love the ludicrousness
Hi,
of
everybody.
stuff like that.
Hi. I love that. That's just to me. That's just like to me. That's Super Simpsons right there. The Simpsons kind of took just junk like that. It's so animated and over the top. It's great.
And, the party gets out of control and nobody even knows that Wyatt is the one who lives there. And, the thing in this movie, man, the thing is everybody, whether it's a man or a woman, they always turn their head and watch Kelly LeBrock go by. Mm-hmm. And Kelly LeBrock is a fine enough, lovely enough person.
Yeah.
But I guess it's maybe it's some magical power from being computer generated, but there are other women in this movie every bit as attractive as Kelly LeBrock that they don't make a big deal out of.
Yeah. That's the character there, though.
Yeah, I guess. And you can't go back to 1985 and see it through that lens anymore because maybe there was something about her. But I think they make a bigger deal. Like, it's hard to suspend the disbelief. They're making a little too big of a deal out of her. I think there's a movie, I think it's called The Truth About Cats and Dogs, where they're making a big deal out of Uma Thurman, who's also lovely, but she's not that like stereotypical Hollywood pretty girl lovely. You know what I mean?
Well, that was during the indie boom of the 90s, Bruce.
Oh yeah,
and Uma Thurman was the queen, in that kind of era, where it's just like an attractive but unconventionally attractive kind of lady.
Yeah,
still good looking. But
oh yeah, absolutely. But it's not like you kind of think that's, well, anyway, I don't want to be trying to typecast other actresses, but that's sort of the kind of role that, like if you're going to put Cindy Crawford in a movie or something where she didn't have to act a lot or something, a different type of look. But anyhow.
And what if you put her with a bald one, which they did? That movie was terrible.
And did Kelly LeBrock, she did this, and then she did that Steven Seagal movie, and then was she married to Steven Seagal before or after that movie?
I think it was afterwards.
And then she never made another movie, did she? She had like 3 movies. She's got something right now that's in post-production. Oh, well, I didn't know about that. I always felt like she got to be way more of a household name than her filmography justifies. Like, I felt like everybody knew who Kelly LeBrock was pretty much because of this movie. Like, you say the name, people know who you're talking about, but she's not really been in much.
Nah, I mean, she's had some stuff in the kind of 90s and 2000s and stuff, but nothing anyone's really heard of, to be honest.
And was she like a model? Like, did she do Sports Illustrated swimsuit or something like that? You know, a lot of people were famous in the 80s for that stuff, like Elle McPherson and things like that.
Yeah, she's big magazines and stuff like that.
Okay, so that might be why she was a household name and not just this movie. But the party's going on. Gary and Wyatt lock themselves in the bathroom. And one of my favorite scenes, man, one of my favorite lines is, if you're going to float an air biscuit, give me a warning so I can hit the fan. Is that what he says?
Yeah, and the great part is, too, is like he looks at him and just goes, what are you talking about?
And then he explains what floating an air biscuit is. Then finally his nerves get to him. He goes, okay, go ahead, hit the fan. Right then the girls knock on the door when it smells like, yesterday's toot. He's telling him to light a match. He opens the door and they say, what are you up to? And Wyatt, you hear him scream from the background, Gary just took a dump.
I didn't get that.
Now, I work in an office environment where we have a couple of bathrooms for employees, and we got a lot of employees. So there's frequently like lines and stuff to use the bathroom. And what I hate is when I go in and the person before me just took a doozy of a toozy and they've stunk the place up. I go in, I spring a real quick leak, wash my hands and go out. And the person behind me thinks that I'm who made that smell. That kills me every time.
Well, that's why you always got to walk out and just be like, boy, somebody, if you preface whatever you do with just like, oh my gosh, somebody did this and I couldn't even do anything. I left early.
Oh, man. Back when I lived in Nashville and I was at Vanderbilt, I was waiting to use the bathroom there at the clinic where I was training at. And the guy that was in there before me, he just walks out and he gives me a quick like shake of the head like, no, don't go in there. And I just told him thanks and found another restroom.
Do yourself a favor, man. Turn tail and run.
I don't want to tell you what I did in there, but it lowered the real estate value.
They're going to have to call it exorcist.
But you know what? This doesn't really turn into your typical 80s out-of-control high school party. Like, the people at the party are actually pretty well behaved.
Yeah, it literally takes an outside source that's not them.
Well, I think it all goes crazy when they start trying to make a deal where they say they'll make a woman like Lisa for Robert Downey Jr. and the other guy in exchange for them trading. Once again, this is treating the women like commodities to be exchanged, but they're going to trade the two cute girls that are their girlfriends to Gary and Wyatt in exchange for them making a version of Lisa for them on the computer. They forget to hook up the Barbie doll. It falls on a Time magazine, and next thing you know, a Pershing 2 nuclear warhead just busts through the middle of their house. I
love the line where it's just like, oh, we didn't hook up the doll.
And then I also like it that Kelly LeBrock, her character Lisa, is supposed to be there to help them with their self-confidence. And she goes, you know what they need? They need some Mad Max-style mutant bikers to just come in and trash the place.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like she skipped a couple of other steps along the way,
Yeah, basic intelligence.
Yeah. So then, the mutant bikers invade the place and they're scaring everybody off. I love the guy from The Hills Have Eyes. It's always nice to see him see him show up as in a character role.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Michael Berryman is always just like, he's always a blast to see and stuff. And I love that they kind of like let him just use his regular voice and everything in this, which is so great because he's such a normal person. He looks odd and strange, but he's such a normal guy. And like if you listen to any interviews with him, he's a sweetheart of a human being. He's so nice.
You remember his goodbye line in the movie, his final line?
Oh, I forget what it was, but it was a funny one.
He said, could you just keep this between us? I don't want it to interfere with my teaching job.
There was one more where he was just, he leaves out. He just goes, all right, bye, everybody. God bless you.
Oh, man. I also love it when the grandparents are out at dinner and they say, it kills me to think of Wyatt at home all alone. And Grandpa goes, doesn't he have any books to read, Margaret? Or whatever her name is. If there's one thing a teenage boy cares about, it's his grandparents. So the grandparents show up at the party and Kelly LeBrock has to freeze him and stick him in the pantry.
Yeah, it's so bizarre of just all the, like, I have all the powers that I need for whenever I need them. So, I mean, I guess that's why you threw Houdini in there. So I could just do whatever. It's like, those weren't real magic that Houdini was doing. They were illusions.
And the second time that they fire up the computer, they have one of the most gratuitous like type of nude scenes possible, because for no reason they take us to like the next door neighbor where a woman is sitting all by herself in a room playing the piano.
No, that's at the house. That's at their house.
Well, the vortex sucks the piano out, sucks the piano stool out. It's trying to suck her out, so she's holding on to the windowsill. So it takes her clothes off one layer at a time, including her bra.
God bless America.
Then it finally pulls her out and spits her out naked in a mud hole.
She did that stunt herself. Absolutely. I was reading up on this. The girl who did it, she posed naked in Playboy actually a little bit later. There was a pool in the background. But they put her up on like this big crane and everything. She did that whole stunt.
They launched her from a trebuchet essentially.
So they had her on a thing. She was on a wire and everything, but she actually did that stunt.
Now, after they chase off the bikers, I don't know that there's much to say. The bikers take the girls that they really have a crush on. So suddenly Gary grows a pair and steps up and pulls out a gun from who knows where. Like, I guess we're supposed to believe he held on to this squirt gun from, a couple of hours before, despite the fact he's been doing it like a million different things and the gun isn't obviously in his pocket or anything.
Right.
But he pulls it out, chases off the mutant bikers, then says, don't worry, it's a squirt gun. And then you get the gag where he pulls the trigger and it shoots the chandelier. But then, everybody leaves the party except the next morning, they got their two little girls. They've won their prize. Like I said, not treating them with agency here. But Chet comes home with a dead duck. I just love it that he comes in the house carrying a dead duck and has a big confrontation with everybody. And when Gary and Wyatt go jump into the Porsche and the Ferrari to take the young ladies home, she turns Chet in, and I wasn't sure what exactly he was turned into. Yeah. According to IMDb, it's a talking turd.
Somebody's got some weird looking turds.
Makes me wonder what's going on with John Hughes' diet, if that's what he thinks a turd looks like.
No.
It looked more like a frog guy or something to me.
Yeah, a mutant, a blobby mutant of sorts.
Yeah, and he's got the frog tongue because he eats the fly and the big tongue. I love this puppet.
Not surprising.
Tell you, I loved it when I was a kid, and I thought it was going to be one of those things where, like, in your memory, it looks way cool, but when you see it now compared to CGI and stuff, it looks so dated. Nope, I still love that puppet.
So that was, as you might have imagined, in 1985, that was a practical puppet that Bill Paxton was actually supposed to get into and do all the puppetry work, but he was too claustrophobic, so they had two little people get inside and do all the work.
And, they made the face look close enough to Chet's. I liked it, man. They even gave it big teeth and the flat top. I'm not the kind of person that would like to have a lot of movie memorabilia, but I wouldn't turn down the Chet Turd puppet if somebody offered it to me.
You got that Chet Turd puppet over there at Christie's? What's that going for?
I will bid $1 million.
Come on, honey, we got to get down to Sotheby's. They're getting off that Chet poop puppet.
And this had the thing where I don't know exactly how it goes down, but this happens with a couple of John Hughes movies where I feel like we've reached the end of the movie, but he realizes it's only an hour and 10 minutes long. So he has like that protracted denouement.
Yeah.
Because it definitely has a lot of this, because they take the girls home. He tells the one girl he loves her, which, man, talk about moving fast. She didn't really know your name till yesterday. You're saying you love her. This is why you're still single, buddy.
Yeah, but you're going way too fast, pal.
We get a totally unnecessary, like Dukes of Hazzard style police chase in the Ferrari for no reason. He's like, okay, this will buy us 4 more minutes of screen time. We'll have the cop chasing Gary while he's driving the Ferrari across the train. I mean, that really feels
completely
on,
unnecessary. Right? Yeah, it's there as a filler and just to add some more actiony sort of stuff and be like, look, we'll give you some more money. We just got to have this thing hit an hour and a half.
And Dukes of Hazzard might have been doing great in the ratings at the time. I don't quite know, but maybe they wanted to catch on some of that Dukes of Hazzard fandom. I don't know.
We gotta get some of that Duke boy money.
And they kind of draw that out. Meanwhile, you got Chet as the turd puppet. And then they come home, and this is when Kelly LeBrock, she says, "Okay, my job here is done." Like like a really sexy Mary Poppins.
Mm-hmm.
My job here is done. Actually, Mary Poppins was really sexy. So what am I saying?
Yeah, you're not wrong there. Julie Hender's getting it done, boy.
Back in the day, I saw Victoria quite a few times.
Yes, sir.
But anyway, so she like flies off with her umbrella into the Never Never Land, and all the stuff is just magically back to normal, like the moment before the parents come home. I mean, it's like that Ferris Bueller racing the clock to get everything fixed before your parents come home, but it's all done via magic or by playing the previous footage in reverse, however you want to look at it.
Exactly. There you go. Everything's fine.
I wonder if they never did show Grandma and Grandpa coming too in the closet, though.
Nope. They had to find them 3 weeks later when they tried to let's go get some beans in the hay.
I like to think that Lisa didn't do anything to them. They just like had heart attacks when they saw the wild party going on.
Well, here we are.
And then when you think finally it's over, when the parents come home and we find out that, Lisa managed to eternally repair the poor relationship between Chet and his brother Wyatt. Then we get to go see a bunch of people that look to be even bigger nerds than Gary and Wyatt in gym class. And all of a sudden the new gym teacher walks in and says, "Drop and give me 20." And they all drop. They all simultaneously do the "I should have had a V8" thing where you pop yourself in the forehead and then they fell backwards. While Kelly LeBrock's in her leotard swinging a whistle and winking. And that was the kind of ending that when I was a kid, I thought guaranteed a sequel.
Well, I mean, it's set up like it could easily.
But man, how bad would Weird Science 2 be with Kelly LeBrock as the gym teacher? It could have been as good as Porky's 2, I guess.
This is true. It's just it's that bit's just really bad, and with the whole they all do the same thing. It's all a slap on the head and then pass out at the same time. It's just like I've seen a lot of pretty ladies in my day. Ain't one of them made me slap my forehead and fall backwards into it. It's so dumb.
I just love the dumbness though. Like I like to think the part of what gives me joy is I like to think that the person who did it thought that it was like the most clever thing ever. And what I'm laughing at it is because it's sort of like showing, boy, doesn't this look ridiculous? Like I think they intended for you to be genuinely laughing, but instead I watch it like they're showing me like I look at it as if it's parodying itself.
Yeah, it's just been like, all right, boys, that was cute. Everybody did the same stupid thing on take 1. That's adorable. Let's do this again. Take 2. They were like, no, this is all we're doing.
I cannot tell you. I don't know why the totally ridiculous, obnoxious, over-the-top Chet brings me so much joy. Why the stupid stuff like everybody showing up for the party at once in unison brings me so much joy. The idea of the whole PE class full of nerds of the level that they would make the guys from Freaks and Geeks look cool. All that stuff, I just love it.
Not a surprise. Not a surprise at all. Well, it also shouldn't come as a surprise to you guys as it's come to that time of the show.
Hey, is there any chance, and I don't see how it would be possible because Sylvester Stallone was up to nothing in 1985. I don't know how this movie could possibly relate to Sylvester Stallone.
Well, you know what, Bruce? I think I got you prepared. I think I got you set here because I have a prepared statement.
You don't say.
This week's Stallone connection is a bit of a love letter. Not like the type of letter that you write to someone of whom you've shared a meaningful, romantic relationship with, letting them know just how much they mean to you and how your life would not be complete without them. Or the type of letter that you would write. It could be the type of letter that you would write to a sweaty Italian man in hopes that one day he'll come on your podcast and bask in the warm glow of all the love that you and your co-hosts harbor for him week after week, despite his refusal to admit to your very existence when you know darn well that all he has to do is pick up a phone and call. It's not so hard.
Come on.
But I digress. This is a love letter to an actor of whom we lost far too soon. A thespian we all knew and loved, but no one... let me start over. A thespian we all know and loved, but one we may not have given as much credit where credit was due. Sure, when you find out he's in a movie, it was always a welcome pleasure, but he was probably an actor that you really didn't sell a movie for you. That's a hard thing to do when you're a guy like this week's Stallone connection, the late, great Bill Paxton.
Chet?
Not fat or ugly enough to be considered a character actor, but not quite leading man either. William Paxton was born on May 17, 1965 in Fort Worth, Texas, to a Roman Catholic mother and a father who was a bit of a jack of all trades, businessman, lumber wholesaler, museum executive, and occasional actor. His most notable role was quite a minor role, as one is Bernard in Sam Raimi's Spider-Man films. We talked about him not too often long ago. Paxton,
I think that was his dad.
Exactly. That's
okay.
Literally what I just said.
I doze off sometimes.
It's fine. Paxton was raised in Texas and was even in the crowd that fateful day in November in Dallas, Texas in 1963. There are actually even pictures of an 8-year-old Paxton being lifted above the crowd on display at the 6th floor museum in Dallas. It seemed Paxton was edging for the spotlight even then. In 1982, Paxton and his friend Andrew Todd Rosenthal formed a new wave band called Martini Ranch. The band released its only full-length album, Holy Cow, in 1988 on Sire Records. The album was produced by Devo member Bob Casile and featured guest appearances by 2 other members of Devo. That music video for the band's single Reach was directed by none other than James Cameron. Paxton would go on, but Paxton would play a bit role for James Cameron later on in The Terminator in 1984. The next thing that would bring Paxton would be to the big screen would be his role this week in Weird Science, where he plays Chet, the butthole brother with a haircut no sane barber would give. His first day on the set, Paxton said, "I told the film's makeup artist," this is a quote from him, "I told the film's makeup artist I wanted to do a haircut that was really intense. He's the one who suggested the flat top, but long on the sides and slicked back." He was afraid he was going to lose his job and get to cut it like that without having it being approved by the producer or director. But I said, just do it. End quote. Fortunately, Hughes loved it, and along with everything else Paxton brought to that character. Now, Paxton would go on to have a huge career, including such hits as Commando, Aliens, Near Dark, Tombstone, True Lies, Apollo 13, Twister, Titanic, A Simple Plan, Nightcrawler, and Frailty, which he also directed. Paxton was also no stranger to TV, from Frasier to Tales from the Crypt, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. to miniseries like Hatfields and McCoys, and starring in series like Big Love, and his final role as Detective Frank Rourke in CBS's Training Day. Bill Paxton left us with 93 acting credits. Not all amazing, but all of them were definitely Bill Paxton. And Bill Paxton's role as Dinky Winks in Robert Rodriguez's 2000 film that would usher in the 3D era as we know it today, Spy Kids 3 Game Over, was no exception. And why would it be? Could anyone do horrible work besides the character of Toy Maker portrayed by the actor who's most made of the stuff that dreams are made of, Sylvester Stallone? I dare think not. Bill Paxton may have never been seen as a true character actor or traditional leading man, but doggone it, he was the best darn Bill Paxton anyone could have ever hoped for. So there you have it, HMPers, this week's Stallone connection. Now, Chet, let's rate this bad boy so I can get back to doing what I do best, animating Barbie dolls to come back to life in the hopes that someone will love me one day.
Now, man, that Spy Kids movie, did you say that was Spy Kids 3 Game Over?
Spy Kids 3D, mm-hmm.
And wasn't it Bill Paxton that made Game Over such an iconic phrase?
He did indeed.
So maybe that's the connection there.
A connection on connection on connection. That's what we do here, everybody.
All right. Is it time to rate this?
So that is it, Bruce. Let's go ahead and rate this sucker. What do you got?
You know, it was easy for me to forget how important this was to me because I watched it a lot, but it came out in 1985. You know, the same year as Back to the Future, where the science fiction here doesn't stand up to Back to the Future. It came out the same year as Breakfast Club, which for a lot of people, probably myself included, is kind of the apotheosis of Jonathan Hughes movie. You know, like it is the Jonathan Hughes movie. If you're going to say you have to give one example, it's Breakfast Club. Real Genius came out, which is kind of like the smart kid, sex comedy, computer stuff kind of thing, maybe overshadowed this a little bit. So it's easy for this to kind of get forgotten in the kind of stuff that came out in 85, but I loved it then. I love it now for totally different reasons. It gives me so much joy. I understand that it has flaws that are, I'll say like political flaws because it's a creation of 1985, and that doesn't excuse it, But I enjoy watching this movie and laughing at the filmmakers more than I'm probably laughing with them. I like just the total psychotic, makes no sense stuff that happens. Like I said, the guy gets put into the TV screen and they change the channel and he goes and is chased by the monsters and he's chasing Lassie down a well and stuff like that. I love the ludicrousness of it all that makes no sense. Like somehow a computer causes a woman to be stripped naked and sucked out of a chimney. I've got to give this to Dick Grayson, man. I can't help it.
Oh, man. So here's the thing. I was not somebody who grew up with this movie. I mean, I'd seen like, it on like TV, like way back when, edited for TV and all that kind of jazz. Sure, shooting didn't really remember it. And it was nothing that really laid that kind of an indelible mark on me to when I wanted to go back and watch it again and again. But I definitely know that it's for some certain people, it is like that. So I understand where it belongs in this. So at the end of the day, I was gonna say Stephanie Brown, but I'm gonna go Carrie Kelly on this one, just on account of I know how important this is. It's not necessarily for me. I enjoy it well enough, but if I was given a choice, I probably wouldn't go this direction. But I understand the historical significance of it enough to muster you should probably just give it a shot if you've never seen this before, because it does have its place in history.
And I think if it came out in 1984, it would have been even a bigger part of the zeitgeist. But man, everything got swallowed up by Back to the Future.
It's so big. Back to the and like when you have it compared to like Back to the Future, it's just like it's not even close. I mean, and John, I'll be honest, I'm not the hugest of John Hughes fans. I don't dislike the guy. National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation is like my go-to every single year on Christmas, so it's not like I dislike the guy. But it was I was just, when you compare the two, man, it's not even close. It's just it's not even Transformers GoBots. It's way better than that. But it's all right. But for a certain person, definitely of a certain age, I can definitely see them having a good time with this. But doesn't age as well as you might think. So if you really do have that love, you may want to just keep it. Just keep it in your pocket. Because sometimes if you go back, it's just like, ooh, I made a mistake.
No, this is one of those, if you used to love it, you're still going to love it, man. This is one of those rare ones where the nostalgia panned out for me.
And yeah, and listen, I can say that there are things like that. And I'm completely aware that there's stuff that, that I like that most people would just go, well, that's just dumb and stupid. And I'm like, no, it's great. And it's like, it is what it is. But that is it, everybody. We are done for this week. Thank you guys so much. Thank you to everybody that supported us on Patreon and picked this out for us. Thank you, Patreon people. You're good folks. I don't care what anybody says about you. Is that the way to ingratiate yourself to them? No? Anyway. But if you would like to vote.
Yeah.
If you would like to vote on what we watch this month, why don't you go to patreon.com/HMP. Again, you can support us at any level. You don't have to, give up your apartment, payment or anything else like that. No one wants to put you in the poorhouse. Even if it's $1, that's a quarter an episode. At the end of the day, we just say, it's what we're worth, man. It's value for value. If you feel that week after week we bring some value into your life, just throw a little bit of value back ours at whatever you think is equal to what we are worth, man. That's it, And if you do, you get more cool stuff at the same time as well. Next week, we're going to be reviewing the first 5 episodes of The Tick that has come out on Amazon. So, we did.
Now, does that include the pilot we already reviewed?
I don't know if we're going to count that one. We'll take a look. If it's not the first 5, then technically it'll be the first 6 if we're going to count the pilot. I haven't taken a look at it just yet, but I will, and we'll get back to you on that. So The Tick, man, I think we were pretty warm, not fantastically. I think we saw some.
I think we were closer to Luke than we were to warm.
Yeah, it was. We're kind of right there in the middle. We're like, could be better, could be worse, but. What have they done? They picked it up, and we'll see what Amazon did with it. So if you do have Amazon Prime, go ahead and check that out. We'll be talking about that next week. In the meantime, Bruce, where can we find more of your work on the internet this week, sir?
Just want to tell people I just finished chapter 20 of the Hero Movie Podcast novel, title to be released at a later date, cover reveal coming at a later date. But I just finished chapter 20 on that. You got some good, cool stuff to look forward to. But in the meantime, if you need to kill time while I finish that, you can always go check out Dragon and Gallus, my latest book. It's book 2 in the Lump Adventures, but it works pretty good as a standalone. It's available Audible. It's available as an ebook. It's available as a paperback. There's still Chubby Wizard, Wrath of the Manticore, and Dragon in the Needles. So, they're all there. They're on Amazon. They're Amazon exclusive, Kindle Unlimited, yada, yada, yada. Thank you, everybody.
Indeed. 20 chapters in already. This is going to be his Gone with the Wind, everybody. It's going to be amazing. And I will never drink Mountain Dew again. What? Is that how that's not how that works. And of course, my other podcast, The Film Find at thefilmfind.com. Matt's been gone out, so we're going to have, when he gets back, we're doing a double episode. I've been watching more movies than you can shake a stick at. We're going to have, I want to say, between those 2 episodes, films that I've just watched, we're probably going to cover at least 10 plus. So there's a lot of stuff we're going to be covering over there. So check us out, thefilmfind.com, and all that other good stuff, man. And Nerd Talk Now, I would have done the live show yesterday, but the internet was so torn up that we couldn't do it. Normally that's Saturdays. I'll probably try to do something this week. So just check out Nerd Talk Now, or facebook.com/Nerd Talk Now, and follow on Twitter and all that kind of good stuff, and we'll get you an update when and if that happens, everybody. So thank you guys so much. Join us next week when we talk the first 5 episodes of The Tick. For the absent Sean Keenan and Bruce Leslie, I'm Adam Portrais. Stay super, everybody.
Goodbye, Marty Davy.